Dungeons, Dungeons, and More Dungeons is a far-out game. Am I gonna get that reference? So the new episode of Gravity Falls finally came out, and I'm going to talk about it, but if you're not caught up with the show, as usual, there's going to be spoilers, so if you've not seen this episode yet, stop the video right now. So Dipper wants to hang out with Uncle Ford, and I like that we're going to call him Ford now. It's going to make things a little bit easier. So he constantly wants to see what he's up to in the basement, and he accidentally falls through a window, and Ford yells at him, but then they bond over a game of Dungeons, Dungeons, and More Dungeons, which is essentially Dungeons and Dragons, a parody of Dungeons and Dragons. And just like a lot of nerds, Ford played a lot of games like this in college. So Ford takes out his little dice bag and he shows Dipper this artifact that he found from another dimension called an infinity-sided die. And you can roll it and literally anything in the universe could possibly happen. But luckily he keeps it safely locked away in a cheap plastic case, which he identifies as a cheap plastic case. And honestly, that's like the one thing I'm kind of not liking about Gravity Falls, is that their setups are so shamelessly and blatantly obvious. So of course the die falls out of the case and it brings life to a lot of the creatures from the game, including Probabilitor, the evil math wizard.
I, the evil mathematician, shall capture the children and force them to do homework forever.
Let's see who gets that reference. So he captures Ford and Dipper because he wants to eat their brains to gain more power. So then it's up to Grunklestan, Mabel, and Grenda, believe it or not, to defeat Probabilitor in a game of Dungeons, Dungeons, and More Dungeons in order to save them. So this was a really great episode. There was a lot of funny moments, which was very welcomed because in the last episode we had to deal with a lot of family drama. Some really funny moments came from when they were actually playing against Probabilitor, especially when Mabel took over the game, because her imagination can brew some of the strangest imagery I have ever seen in my life. There was also some really great shoutouts to the fan base. There was a subplot about Mabel and Grunklestan wanting to watch Ducktective, and Ford said to them, "Why are you wasting your time watching a children's show?" And then Stan was like, "This is not just a children's show. There's a lot of mystery elements and a lot of humor that it goes over kids' heads." That was really funny. Of course, Weird Al Yankovic was the voice of Probabilitor, and he was great as always. I like that he didn't really steal the spotlight in this episode, because a lot of times when Weird Al will guest star on a show or something, he's usually the main focus, but in this one he was just the villain, and I kind of like that he didn't take away from anything else in the show. I also like that Grenda was by herself in this episode, although I do wonder where Candy was. Maybe she was on a date with that weird puppet guy. Ugh. It also seemed like things calmed down a little bit between Stanley and Stanford, although they are still establishing that there's a significant rift between Dipper and Mabel. It's going to be a little upsetting because the two of them have been through so much together, and no matter how much they fight, they've always managed to work things out. So I'm kind of hoping that, you know, when things get bad between them, it'll still work out somehow. Also, at the very end of this episode, we find out what Ford's been doing in the basement. He dismantled the portal because he felt it was far too dangerous. Unfortunately, the portal left behind a dimensional rift, which is this sort of blobby spatial thing that he captured in a jar. So it kind of looks like a lava lamp inside of a snow globe. And he says that it's very dangerous, but luckily I've contained it, and I'm gonna store it in this wooden cabinet, I guess. I'm sure that won't cause any trouble in the future. But again, I love this episode. There was a lot of funny moments, a lot of great things happened, a lot of great things established, and I'm actually really looking forward to the next episode because apparently Stan's gonna run for mayor of Gravity Falls, so that ought to be fun. So I guess I'll see you in 3 weeks when the next episode premieres. But anyway, leave a comment below and let me know what you thought of this episode. My name is Rob, and have a wonderful day. Excelsior or whatever.